Okay guys, I am very excited for this video. For me, this is a long awaited moment because as you know, I was trying to get through rating, yeah, these 8 knives, okay? Um, but this video is called my actual best knife, okay? And I don't think I do clickbait, okay? And so the title, my actual best knife, okay, I actually mean it, okay? So these 8 knives that I've talked about so much, none of them are my best knife, okay? And the reason none of them are my best knife is because they're not going to war, yeah? They're not the ones slaying dragons, getting their hands dirty, actually fighting battles, yeah? So my best knife, and we know it's my best knife because it's not one I can ever carry with myself because its purpose is too important, okay? It's one that I had to go out of my way to grab because it's in my fishing bag, okay? And it stays in my fishing bag, okay? Because it's used, yeah? Okay? I would not comfortably, okay, dare to use any of these knives for fishing if you know the kind of abuse and the kind of fishing I do, okay? So to build things up, yeah, to add suspense to when I actually reveal the knife, and it's none of these ones, not these 3, okay, I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And I don't know, the story is just going to take as long as it takes, okay? So once upon a time, I thought that this could serve as my fishing knife, okay? But as you can see, you see this, that's not supposed to happen with a Leatherman wave. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, okay? But inside of here, there are metal pieces that used to exist that no longer exist, okay? And they served as springs, okay? So that this knife was actually a good Leatherman and not a wobbly Leatherman, okay? But because of the way I use knives, those things got very rusted. And then when you try to move rusted things, sometimes they break. And that's why they're no longer there, okay? And then if you look at this, guys, I cannot even close this thing, okay? Why? Because, oh no, okay, so this happens sometimes. Okay, anyway, because this thing is not supposed to stay open once you do this, if the springs exist, yeah? So I actually have to kind of close the tip before I can actually close it, okay? I'm not gonna take out every blade one by one to show you the damage that this thing has sustained, okay? Hopefully you'll just take my word for it that this thing has seen better days, okay? All right, so some of you might be thinking like, yeah, well, man, you must just abuse your stuff, yeah? I mean, if after your trip was over, you actually took the time to spray it down or to put corrosion block on it, to take care of your possessions, wash it, dry it, sharpen it, then you wouldn't have this problem, okay? If you say that, you do not understand my situation, okay? Because even if I did that, it would still be pretty disastrous, okay? And that's a lot of work, guys, okay? That's a lot of work. I shouldn't have to do that much stuff, okay? So me and my big brain, I have this brilliant idea, okay? So this knife, as you can see, I cannot really, I mean, it still works. That's why I didn't throw it away, because it still works, okay? But didn't really want to use it in that shape, okay? So me and my big brain, genius me, is this rust? I don't think it is. Okay, I decide to go to the store and buy the exact same knife. Okay, what was I thinking? Okay, and so why is the cover different, the sheath? Yeah, well, it's because that's what they had in the store when I bought it. Okay, it's not like I wanted this one, it's not like I wanted this one. I just wanted a wave, and whichever one they had I grabbed. Okay, but anyway, so I bought this knife, okay, to replace this as my fishing knife. But fortunately, eventually I had the brains and the sense to realize that this was not adequate for fishing. So why would this be? Yeah, and this thing got destroyed. So I wonder what will happen to this one. Yeah, so I decided to not use this, okay, as my fishing knife. And so because of that, it's in better shape. It's not as beat up. This thing still got used a lot. But my thinking was, you know what, how about we save this knife for around the house or when you're in a rainforest, okay? Instead of on lava rocks or on a sandy beach, okay? Next to salt and salt water, okay? And so yeah, let's go save this for the rainforest or when you're teaching youth survival skills, okay? Great. All right. So fortunately that preserved this guy, okay? And so what did I decide to use instead of these? This thing. See this thing? This is the thing that doesn't exist, okay? It's part of the story. So I turned to a knife called a Gerber Gator, okay? Actually, it wasn't my knife, it was my brother's knife, okay? He doesn't know this. But anyway, my brother, when we were growing up, he had a black knife that was probably about 4 inches in handle, 4 inches in blade. I don't know, I'm just making up, okay? It had a grip that was kind of rubbery, kind of plasticky, kind of grippy. It had a back lock, yeah, a back lock. And it had a black handle and a black blade, okay? It was called a Gerber Gator. Some of you probably know what knife that is, okay? So for probably around 5 years, okay, I started throwing my brother's Gerber Gator in my bag, and that's what I would use, okay? And it worked okay, all right? It worked just fine. It wasn't like absolutely great at what I was doing, but it could do most of what I needed, okay? So one day I'm fishing, yeah, and I got all my stuff laid out on the rocks, okay, because I'm like tying knots or whatever, yeah. So I have my backpack open with a bunch of stuff out, yeah, and I have my poles and my reels, and I have my knife next to me, okay. And I guess I turned to do something, and when I turned, I bumped the knife, and all I saw and all I heard was tok, 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 tok. Okay, that's the sound of a knife falling into a crack, bouncing off rock after rock after rock, okay? And if you saw the crack that this thing fell in, you knew that the knife was gone forever, okay? Because it was like boulders, yeah? And some of these boulders were like probably the size of a car, okay? And underneath the boulders was salt water, the ocean, yeah? And the ocean would come up and the ocean would go down. And so there was no way to even, I couldn't see the knife, but even if I could see the knife, there is no way in the world that I would be able to retrieve it, okay? So that was the end of my brother's Gerber Gator. Okay, I already had this knife on hand, and so instead of going to the store to pick up a knife, I was like, you know what? I never planned on using this for fishing or as a fishing knife, but right, well, let's throw this in the bag, okay? So this, after that, for a long time, became my fishing knife, okay? And so guys, I have a knack, you know, for, you know how there's the saying to make a long story short, yeah? To cut to the chase and get to the point. Oh boy, okay? I have a knack for making a short story long. Okay, all right. Anyway, so this one ends up being my fishing knife, okay? And it was shockingly good at taking the abuse that I inflicted upon it, okay? I would say that it was bad at one thing and good at like 10 things. Like really, okay? So let me explain. Okay, so where I live, okay, there is this thing called a moray eel, okay? So that might give you some sort of a guess or some sort of hint of where Fortu cry exists, okay? But moray eels sometimes we catch them, sometimes we let them go, and sometimes we don't let them go because we chop them up and use them for bait. Okay, and if you've ever dealt with a moray eel, okay, let me just say, I know some of you have. Okay, so some of you know what I'm talking about. I'm guessing most of you haven't. It is the hardest thing to cut in the world. Okay, it is slimy, it is slippery, but the skin is like bulletproof. Okay, it's like loaded with silica. It's like cutting sandpaper, right? And so sometimes we just cut straight through, but a lot of times we cut and then we stop at the backbone, and then we like slice along the backbone. Okay, and so that for all of those cuts, you're cutting skin. Okay, so this knife is bad at that. Okay, because to cut moray eel, you either need, well, you need both. You need a very, very, very sharp edge, but you also need incredible edge retention. Okay, so this guy at that point had a sharp edge, so it survived one eel. Okay, all right. So one time, the very first time, it was able to cut the eel and do the job. Okay, but after that, okay, no sir. Okay. It's just not a safe endeavor after that point. I mean, I could have sharpened it, okay, but I just didn't, never got around to it. Okay, so if I tried to cut this on a second eel, or to use this to cut a second eel, it would not be safe. Okay, it would just bounce and it would just slide. Okay, and I would get hurt. Okay, so anyway, so it was not good at that. But that's not the only thing we do, yeah. Okay, so it was good at everything else. Okay, if I had to cut a piece of paracord in half, no problem. Yeah. What else do we use for rope? We use this thing that we call shocks, flat rope. Yeah, yeah. So flat tape. Okay. Mule tape we call it too. Okay. I think the technical term is electrical conduit tape. I don't know. Okay. But anyway, yeah, no problem. Slice through that. Fish, no problem. Yeah, if we gotta stab a fish in the brain to put it out of its misery, yes, can do. Gotta gut something, can do. Want to use it for a scaler, can do. Okay, this thing could do everything except for the eel. Okay, so it worked. But in addition to that, guys, okay, something that was remarkable about this knife is there were times when I would go fishing and I was too tired to clean my gear afterwards. Okay, so I would just forget about it. I would leave it in my backpack. It was covered with blood, slime, guts, salt water. Okay, and you would think when I came back to the knife that nothing would work. Yeah, that this thing would no longer be pressable. This thing would no longer be openable. It would be very hard to close it if it did open. Okay, but boy, you know, this back lock, it just chews up and spits out gunk and grime like a dream. Okay, so there were times that this knife probably sat salty for months. Okay, for months. And then when I got around to it, I would open it up, I would blast it out, you know, I would spray some corrosion block in it, I would work the hinge, and I would try to bring it back to life. Okay, but this was never meant to be a fishing knife. All right, so one day I decide, hey, you know what, I need a good fishing knife. Okay, like an actual fishing knife. Guys, none of these things, okay, these are all pretty boys. Let's just face it, those are the facts. Okay, the moving parts, okay, and the fine tolerances that make up every single one of these things. Okay, so this top liner, this button with its spring, okay, this frame lock with its pivot, okay, this frame lock with its pivot, this liner lock again with its pivot, this compression lock with its pivot and all its other things. Holy moly, this one would fare the worst. Okay, this thing with probably its bearing and its spring and its moving crossbar, And this beauty, okay, with its removable scales that things would go inside and its pivot, none of these could handle salt water or the sand. Yeah, the sand that inevitably will be just in everything. But this guy could, okay? And so I had a bright idea that was not very bright, okay? When I started looking for my replacement for this, okay? My idea was to look for a need that didn't exist, okay? So what did I look for? I wanted to get a fixed blade, okay? Because I was thinking like, oh yeah, the problem with salt and sand is moving parts, yeah? If there's no moving parts, then we don't need to worry, okay? Then we don't need to worry, all right? So I started like scouring the internet, doing tons of research, looking at all the different brands, okay? I'm looking at like Falkneven, I'm looking at Spyderco, I'm looking even at Benchmade fixed blades, I am looking at Cold Steel. I know a lot of you guys know Cold Steel, okay? I'm looking all over the place for the dream perfect fixed blade, okay? And eventually I go down a rabbit hole where I'm looking at dive knives, yeah? Because I go diving too, okay? And you would think the dive knife, the daggers, those are perfect, right? Because like you literally go into the water with them strapped onto your ankle, okay? Nope, they weren't perfect either, okay? And then even when I would find a fixed blade that met the desired requirements, I couldn't wrap my head around the sheath. Yeah, you know, the thing you put the blade inside, okay? And all of a sudden, my brilliant idea of switching from one of these to a fixed blade, it no longer made sense, okay? Because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, okay? First of all, this thing is kind of small. It fit really good in my fishing bag. If we have a fixed blade, the fixed blade might be kind of small, even though it doesn't fold, but the sheath inevitably makes it pretty dang big, okay? So number one, we have the problem of size and bulkiness, and you don't want a big brick taking up a lot of space in your fishing bag, okay? Space is at a premium, yeah? Okay, what else? So the sheath is just a trap, yeah, a trap for blood and guts and moisture, okay? So I'm like, oh man, we don't want our blade sitting inside of basically a nursery for rust, okay? So if you have a blade covered in a bunch of gunk and you stick it into another thing, yeah, then a lot of moisture in there, but also you're transferring what's on the blade into the thing, okay? And then how do you clean that out? Okay, well, some of them you can. And then what, you gotta dry it? Oh, that's a lot of work, right? So all of a sudden it was like, okay, this is an idea with a lot of drawbacks, okay? It's bulky, okay? It's moisture filled. And then how do you clean it? How do you dry it? Okay. And then I started realizing, wait a minute, so what were my complaints with this thing? Because it's not like the sand and the salt broke this thing. It's not like all of a sudden I couldn't open it and close it even when it sat, right? So I realized that this was almost the perfect knife, okay? Because it could handle abuse, like unbelievable levels of abuse, okay? This poor thing was not treated well, okay? And that's why it's dear to me now, yeah? I even resharpened it and fixed the broken tip, okay? To show him how much I appreciated his service, yeah? But I realized, okay? What I realized was that I threw everything I had at this knife and it just laughed it off, okay? And all the things that I wanted in the fixed blade that ended up being problems were not problems with this, yeah? fixed blades are bulky. This is not bulky. Yeah. The fixed blades have a sheath. This does not have a sheath. Yeah. Fixed blades have the problems that accompany the sheath. This does not have those problems. And flat out, it survived. Okay. So that's when I realized I just needed a back lock. Okay. That was actually made for fishing. Okay. Because this was not made for fishing. At least not in salt water. And I just needed a back lock. Okay, because the back lock is the only thing aside from a fixed blade that could handle what I do. Okay, and I just needed a back lock that had either a sharper blade or a better blade. Okay, all right, and so now my search actually has direction. Okay, I'm finally on to the right thing. Okay, so my actual best knife. All right, let's go put these guys away. They've served their purpose. Okay, and none of these are my actual best knife. Okay, so let's go move on to this. All right, making a short story long. If you're still here hanging in, then I guess you really want to know what I'm about to say. Okay, guys, after much searching and much research, I wanted to cry when I stumbled upon this knife. Okay. Boom. Okay. Holy moly. Okay. This is actually my best knife. This is my actual best knife. All right. Ever since I had it, it has done nothing but exactly what I wanted it to do. All right. Okay. So as you know, from the 8 knives, yeah, I was impressed with Spyderco. Okay, so much so that after I got this Spyderco, I decided to double down and duplicate and get a second Spyderco. And from the first 8 knives, this was the only brand that was represented twice. Okay, so I'm looking at all these different brands, all these different knives, and then I find out that this thing exists. Okay, guys, will you look at this? Yeah, this is a back lock. This is a back lock. Okay, this is this long, and guys, I loved the size of this. It just so happens that this is pretty much the exact same size. It is the exact same size, guys. Okay, so that's crazy. Okay, this guy is that long in blade. Take this out. This guy, lo and behold, is like the exact same length in blade. But this guy could handle all the salt that I threw at it, but this guy was not made for salt. This guy, by virtue of being the same construction, I mean the same like technology, okay, engineering, I guess, is gonna handle salt just as well as this thing, but it's actually made for salt. I don't know if you can see it, but it literally says salt right over there. Okay, this blade was not made for salt. H2, guys, is the most made for salt thing pretty much ever in the history of our planet. Yeah, so I went from a knife that wasn't meant for fishing but was really good at fishing to a knife that has all the same characteristics but is actually made for it. Like, this is literally like a Spyderco version of a buck 110 for fishing. Okay, now let's talk more. I'm gonna just rave about this knife. Now that you guys finally know what knife it is, I am just elated upon discovering this guy. Okay, Seki City, Japan. That's funny. Yeah. Guess what, guys? Where is it? Hey, where'd he go? Oh, here it is. This knife, yeah, the Mkusta, also made in Seki, Japan. Okay, that was not just random neural firing, guys. That was not scripted. Okay, but let me explain. Okay, so you see how a lot of my actual used knives have this green stuff all over? okay? That's because at night, no matter what color something is, it can be hard to find, okay? So you shine your flashlight, and if it's reflective, all of a sudden it's easier to find, okay? All right, but anyway, this guy's heavy, okay? This guy's not, okay? This guy has a very comfortable handle, but it has no like, I don't know what they're called, yeah, curves meant for your hand, okay? This one also has a very comfortable handle, okay? But it literally has some beautiful forms to fit your hand, okay? To give it purchase. What a fancy word, yeah, purchase, okay? This guy is pretty grippy, all things considered, considering they didn't even try to make it grippy, okay? This guy, I can be hands covered with the slimiest of slimy stuff, yeah, like squid or something, and this grip, it's not just on the sides, yeah guys, it's over here too. It is just lovely, okay? This guy is kind of a chunky boy, a little bit thick. This guy's thinner, okay? So similarities and differences, okay? A lot of similarities. Handle size or handle length, blade length, back lock, okay? I'm telling you, aside from a fixed blade, back lock, only thing that can handle what I do, okay? Because that thing just eats up and spits out gunk, right? Okay, but let's talk, no, we're gonna save the best for last. We'll save the best for last, okay? I know, guys, that there's guys who can one-hand operate a buck 110, okay? Well, guess what? I can open it, scare it. Oh, I just put my second hand on, okay? You know what? I won't open it with one hand. I'm not comfortable opening it with one hand, okay? I know there's guys who hold the knife and they like flick it and open it, yeah? Okay, that's how they've been doing it for years. That's okay, I'll just use two hands, yeah? Okay, so I can't really comfortably open this knife with one hand. I am gonna wanna use two, okay? And I have no clue how I'm going to operate this thing and close it with one hand. So I don't. Yeah, I press it here and I close it with one hand. And I have no problem with that. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with opening something with two hands and closing with two hands. It's actually smarter and it's actually safer. Okay, so nothing's wrong with two-hand operation. Okay, but boy, it is nice if it just so happens to also be one-hand operatable, yeah? Okay, so this guy I couldn't do, but look at this. Put my thumb here, boom, one hand. Can't do that with this, okay? And this was great, okay? And then check this out, yeah? Since there's this metal section here, and this lock is here instead of down here, I put my finger here and I press this button so I don't get cut, and it falls on the dull part, and then I move to here and close it, yeah? Super easy. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so of course most of the time I'm just going to open it with two hands and close it with two hands, but if for whatever reason I want to do one hand, I can. Okay, so that's an additional improvement on this guy. Okay, what else? Okay, yellow. Yeah, yellow. Okay, I remember when I was a kid, they told us that fire trucks used to be red because they thought red was more visible. But then when they actually like used science, a lot of fire trucks changed to, did I say red or yellow? Okay, so they used to be red, yeah? A lot of fire trucks changed to yellow because yellow was scientifically proven to be more visible, okay? So this is yellow, nice touch, pretty dang visible, yeah guys? Okay, no clip on this one. There is a clip on this one. That doesn't matter much, yeah guys? I'm honestly not gonna use the clip much. One day I might even take it off, okay? Okay, but like I said, the best for last. And guys, I'm not done, yeah? So even when I say the best feature, I still got a little bit talking left to do. And whether you stick around or not, that is your prerogative. I think that's the word, okay? Okay, you guys remember how I said that this knife got through one eel and then I used it for everything else, but it could no longer do eels? Yeah, That's because the edge retention was not good enough. The sharpness was not good enough after one ill, okay? And it's a straight edge, okay? You know how sharp a straight edge has to be to get through an ill, okay? Guys, you already know what I'm gonna say, okay? This serrated edge is like a saw, yeah? So it doesn't even need to be razor sharp. If it just so happens to be razor sharp, that's wonderful, okay? But because it's like a saw, even if it gets dull, shrink, 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 yeah, we're still gonna get through it, okay? So for a fishing knife, the kind of fishing I do, okay, a straight edge never was adequate, okay? This thing is great, okay? All right, so serrations make sense for what I do, okay? Guys, this thing has already cut some stuff in half, okay? All right, this is not like one of those trucks that they call, what do they call them? They call them pavement princesses, yeah? You know those guys who have those lifted trucks but don't ever use them for anything? Okay, pavement princesses, okay? This is not the knife world equivalent of a pavement princess, okay? This has lopped off some heads, all right? Okay, anyway, H2, okay? Guys, there used to be a steel that this knife was made of called H1, okay? And H1 was just bonkers. It was so good, okay? You could leave that thing under the ocean for a year and then take it out of the ocean and then leave it on your sidewalk for a year, and the thing would basically still be completely rust-free, corrosion-free, okay? And so that was H1. H2 is even better, okay? So if H1 was good, H2 is even better, okay? Now, there is one drawback to H1 and H2, okay? And the drawback is that you can only heat treat it so high, okay? Just because of the material chemical composition of it, all right? And so with H1 and H2, the heat treatment is low, okay? Because this metal cannot handle getting heat treated really, really high, okay? So what does that mean? It means that the edge retention shouldn't, yeah, I said the word shouldn't be good. And guess what? The edge retention isn't good, but it is good. What? What is he even talking about? What does that mean? Okay, let me tell you. Okay, this is like the dream knife, guys. Okay, what that means is, okay, that as you use this knife, okay, it work hardens. What in the world is 42Cry talking about? Work hardens. What is work hardening? Okay, work hardens means that the blade that's being used hardens as it works. Okay, why don't you explain more? I will explain more. Okay, what happens is the composition of this metal and the way the heat treatment goes, yeah, they can only take it to a certain level, but the particles, yeah, just imagine that the metal edge is made up of like round circles that, because they didn't heat treat it too crazy, have kind of spaces between them, right? Great, okay? So what happens is, as you use the knife, the edge becomes even harder than it was when it was first heat treated, because all of those circles that were left not exactly packed together, yeah, they get smashed together, okay? They get pushed together as the edge bashes into things, okay? So the edge that was not hardenable through heat treatment is hardenable through physical bashing of particles together. I hope I explained that well, okay? So boy, yeah, what could be better than this? The answer is nothing, okay? So what is my actual best knife? It's this guy, okay? If there was a knife I could carry with me everywhere, do everything with, okay, it would be this guy. So why don't I carry this with me everywhere and do everything with this knife? Okay, because it's in my fishing bag. And I'm not gonna buy two of them. Yeah, I'm not gonna buy one for my fishing bag and another for carry around. Plus, guys, yeah. For less serious tasks, it's kind of fun to have the pretty boys around, okay? But yeah, without a doubt, okay, the best knife, you all know it, I know it, we all know it, yeah? The best knife is the one that actually does knife things, okay? And all of us have a whole bunch of ones that aren't really good at that, okay? But that's okay, we're just crazy, yeah? Okay, so that's basically the entire explanation of my actual best knife, but I want to throw in some little additional fun stuff, okay? You can stop watching at this point if you want, okay? Because we're done, it's concluded, okay? The rest is just bonus, okay? So what is the rest? Okay, the rest is that there's actually another actual best knife, okay? All right, and this is the truth, guys. I cannot live, right? Okay, there's a lot of stuff, okay? Anyway, I cannot live without this guy, right? Okay, so let's take this off, okay? This is the other actual best knife, right? Okay, now we'll leave this here for now, okay? The other actual best knife is this guy. We all know this guy, okay? Tweezers, and it's crazy how handy and how often those are used. Toothpick, not used as much, also handy and gets used, okay? Screwdriver, yeah, this is a Phillips head screwdriver, okay? Use it all the time. Knife, okay? Unbelievable, because when you have nothing else, you have this guy, right? And then scissors. Shouldn't say it, but I'm gonna say it, guys, yeah? Nose hairs. Great for trimming your nose hairs, yeah? Okay. So I cannot live without this. I can't. I've probably been carrying it for close to 25 years now, yeah? Not this one, because every now and then I lose one, yeah? Usually they're red. This one just so happens to be black, okay? But this is the other actual best knife, okay? So let's remove this from the table, okay? All right, so these are my two actual best knives. The one that I can't live without, that's always been with me for over 2 decades. And the one that I discovered, that is very much like a Buck 110, but everything that is wrong with the Buck 110 when it comes to fishing in salt water, this one remedies, yeah? So I want to show you something kind of funny, guys, yeah? This knife is so good that, and if you don't know, guys, these things are amazing, yeah? These barrel things, yeah? So like if over here I have a separate set of things, boop, yeah, we can separate them, okay? But I have another one attached to the main set, this one, where we can go boop, and that's how you know I love this knife, okay? But what's crazy is I love this knife so much that even though I carry this knife, I still carry this knife, okay? I cannot live without this knife, okay? Let's move my keys, yeah? Hey, just so you guys know, lockpicking lawyer, he would be very disappointed in me for showing you guys my keys, yeah? Because he would never let you guys see whatever, the dips and valleys of his keys, because then you guys could, like, I guess, break into his shed or something, okay? Okay, and then what? We got this guy too, okay? Guys, this knife is so amazing, okay? Because it's the one that actually gets used, that we had to get the baby brothers, yeah? The baby brothers, okay? So look at, attention, yeah? Notice, okay? Notice, yeah? H2, 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 serrated, 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 small, well, extra small, small, and whatever size this is, okay? So you know I love this knife, guys, okay? I love this knife so much that I leave it in my fishing bag. And because I cannot enjoy this guy's company because it's in my fishing bag, I got two baby brothers, okay, to hang out with me. One stays on my keychain with the other actual best knife in the universe, okay? And this one, when I'm not daily carrying the other pretty boy knives, this guy gets taken out at times. And they all have the same feature, guys, yeah? I can open it, pop, okay? I can break it, pop, and I can close it, and I can do it with one hand or two hands. And then this guy too, yeah, pop, boom, yeah. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think I'm almost done with the video. Yeah. This is not gonna be the best for everybody, yeah. But if you live where I live, and if you do what I do, I don't know, and you tell me there's a better knife than this, strong opinion, yeah. I'll probably disagree. I'll be like, nope, you just don't know about this one. Okay. Watch, yeah. Oh, I'm Spyderco's best friend, but this knife going to sell like crazy now. Okay, so this knife is called the Spyderco Pacific Salt 2. Yeah, so there was a Pacific Salt. This is the Pacific Salt 2. Okay. Yeah, it's funny that, yeah, I won't go there. Okay, this guy is called the Dragonfly. Okay, it doesn't say Dragonfly 2, but this is called the Dragonfly 2. Okay, so we have the Pacific Salt 2. Technically, this is the Dragonfly Salt 2. Okay, or sometimes they put salt at the end, so Dragonfly 2 Salt. Let's put salt at the end, yeah? Okay, let's put it before the number. Okay, and then this is called the Ladybug. Cute name, yeah? Okay, Ladybug. So this one is the Spyderco Ladybug 3. Okay, so this is a 2 Pacific Salt. This is a 2 Dragonfly Salt, and this is a 3 Ladybug Salt. Okay, and guys, I have no clue how long this video was, okay, but I think you could sense the passion in this one, yeah. And so, you know, I really hope some people watched this, okay, so that they could hear my thoughts on my actual best knife. This one and this one. All right, that's it.